sharing my screen. Okay, so I welcome everyone once again. So I'm just going to be sharing my screen so we can kickstart. Please kindly let me know when you can see my screen. All right. So can you all see my screen?
Yes, I can.
All right, great. Thank you. So once again, thank you, Jupiter Academy, also for this opportunity. I'm really glad to be here. So as we all know, the topic for today is how to learn and earn as a UI UX designer, right? I believe some of us here might be, we kind of understand what it is to be a UI UX designer. And some of us are also, we're just starting our career as a UI UX designer, right? So today we're just going to be kickstarting on that. So yes, so like I said, I'm just going to give like a brief intro. My name is Omolola Adedayo, and I'm a product designer at Thoughtbot. So what I do basically, I've been in UI UX design ever since I transitioned, right, for the past 4 years. And over the years, I've been able to solve a lot of problems, when it comes to a lot of diverse business sectors, implementing UX best practices, right? And it also has to do with a lot of other things that I can't say right now, right? Because some has to do with NDAs and all of that. Yeah, so that's just a brief intro about myself. So today we're just going to be talking about key content that I have for us today. And some of it are learn the fundamentals of UX design, right? And positioning yourself as a UX designer, key skills needed for advancement. And yes, sorry, I need to confirm. So am I still okay? Thank you. All right. So key skills needed for advancement and building a strong portfolio, access to communities as a UI UX designer, and ask for feedback and do learn from it. So basically, these are just some of the things I'm just going to be touching in this session, right? So let's get started. All right, so the first one we're going to be talking about is learning the fundamentals of UX design. So like I said, some of us already understand what it means to be a UI UX designer, right? So I'm sure it's not like a new thing for us all. So I'm just going to give like a brief intro about what UI UX is. So first off is UI design, right? So UI design has to do with the look and feel of the product, and why UX design has to do about the overall experience and the usability about a product. So basically, I'm just going to give like a brief example as to what UI UX is, right? So let's just imagine that, when we're a kid, we play with toys, right? Which is very, very common thing for us. So also when it comes to, in that toy, let me use a car as an example, right, for kids. So, when it comes to the colors, the shapes, and the button that we usually touch, right? Those are an example of an UI of a product, right? So UI and UX doesn't have to do with you maybe designing a website, designing a mobile design. No, it has to do with, in fact, every day of our life, we get to experience user interface and user experience. Right. So as what I'm giving as about the example, right? So the color, the shape, and the button you get to interact with on that car is an example of UI, because it's something that you can see, something that you can feel, right? But when it comes to the UX has to do with the the usability, the way it gets to move from one position to another. That's just like an example of what UX design is. And so this is just like an example of you trying to like explain to a 5-year-old person. So let's say, for example, you are like, okay, can you explain what UX is? Like, explain like you are doing this to a UX, a 5-year-old person, right? So I think that's just like a perfect example for me to describe that, what UI and UX design is, right? So that's an example. So what's UI design and UX design comprises of? When it comes to UI, it has to do with your colors, your fonts, your images, your forms, and all of that. But when it comes to your UX, it has to do with, how usable it is and how maybe valuable it is to your customers or to your users, right? And also to the business. But I think on this session, I'm going to be talking more about customers because, and there's also a difference between product design and UI UX design, right? So that is why I'm going to be focusing more on the customers and users on this session, right? So yes. So the other one we have also is we're talking about the key principles of UI UX design. And first one that I'm going to be talking about is the user-centered design, right? So I have about 5 points here, but I just want to make everything short because of our time. Yeah. So when it comes to user-centered design, right? So I'm also going to be giving an example here, so we get to relate to what I'm trying to explain, right? So when it comes to user-centered design, okay, let me just give like a brief description about that first. So when it comes to user-centered design approach, right, it kind of involve you trying to understand your user's needs and just preference, like in just a short definition, right? And it also has to do with putting your users at the forefront of a design process, and also to create more experience that are truly tailored to their needs. So it's just like, I don't know of us are familiar with, okay, I want to design a product, and we get to do something like user research, we get to do like something like site mapping, your information architecture, and all of that. You are doing this not because you want to just design. No, it's because you're kind of putting your users and your customers at the forefront of your design process, which is quite okay. And I think that is a real definition of what user-centered design should be. So let me now give an example. Let's kind of imagine that we are designing a mobile app for ordering food. Yes, I think that should be like a perfect example. And I feel like most of us use let me just say 90% of us do order for food, right? So let's say, okay, you want to conduct some surveys and interview with some potential users just to understand their preferences, right? So you see some of the interaction you can see for you to be able to order for your food, right? Maybe you go to your cart, you've added some item into your basket or your cart, right? Those are kind of what's the word? I think some factors, yes, that the designers have put into consideration that, okay, before you can be able to order for a food, you need to be able to consider that, okay, I need to put some food into my basket, into my cart before they can be able to get satisfied, right? So that's like a brief example of user-centered design and an approach for that. So the next one we have is accessibility. So before I continue regarding this, so there is a whole lot of key principles of UI UX design. It doesn't have to be that the fact that I've listed 5 of it doesn't mean that is just 5 we have. No, in fact, we have a whole lot, like maybe user research, we have strategy, a whole lot. But the reason why I picked this is because I just wanted to put more effort on this because it's quite important. And you being a UI design doesn't mean that, okay, you can't always be a UX designer, right? They are quite different, but they kind of correlate together, right? So I stopped at accessibility. So when it comes to accessibility, there is one thing about me, which I always try to preach to almost every designer I know. You have to always make sure that whatever product you are designing for a firm, it doesn't even have to be for a firm, right? Or let me use the word client. I think that's the word. Whatever product you are designing for a firm or a client, you have to always ensure that the product is accessible, right? And what do I mean? I mean that you're making the product to be usable for people with maybe disabilities. And I'm going to give an instance for that. So let's say, for example, you are providing some alternative text for, okay, thank you. I think I found the perfect example. And I'm going to be using one of the fun facts for what Elizabeth mentioned, right? Which is K-drama. So let's assume that we watch this K-drama and of course they speak Korean, right? So let's imagine that there's nothing like subtitle. How do we get to interact with it? It's not possible, right? But because there's a subtitle, That is where we can be able to understand what they're saying in movie. I think that could be like a perfect example. And what does this mean? It means that whoever designed this product, maybe Netflix or let me say those that shoot the movie. So we can even say that those that shoot the movie, they are not designers, right? But because they understand that they are not only targeting Korean audience, they are also targeting every other person in the world, right? So irrespective of where you come from or anything, or maybe country, you need to understand that the product or whatever movie you're shooting has to be accessible to everyone, right? And so that's for that. For an example, which is like providing text, like a subtitled text, right? And another one that we could also provide is okay, so this is another example. We have, maybe for example, you go to a website and you notice that the image is not loading, or you get to see something like maybe image.png, that is the name of that image, or let me say food.png. So what this means is that if you're not seeing the image, you kind of understand that there's a context to what you're going to be seeing when it comes to that image, right? So that's where you kind of see like an alternative text for images, which allow for those with let me say visually impaired users or customers to understand the content through the screen readers, right? And yes, sorry, I want to confirm something. I hope I'm not too fast.
No, you're not.
Okay,
No,
okay.
you're not.
No,
All
you're
right,
not too fast. You're not too fast.
all right. Thank you for that. So that's just like a brief example of what accessibility means, right? So the next one I'm going to be talking about is consistency. So when it comes to consistency, so to be consistent when it comes to you designing a product or anything you are designing for customers or clients, right? So it has to do with you being expected to use regular elements. And what do I mean by elements? They're like um let me see. Okay, let me use this slide to cite an illustration. So Jupiter Academy is the one that invited me to this call, right? So this is their logo, Jupiter Academy. So let's kind of imagine that they have blue as part of the colors. So I kind of use this blue to also design my slides, right? Okay, so let's imagine that I'm using this blue and maybe the fact that we have some fonts or maybe typographies, I get to use maybe lemon as my text. It doesn't correlate. It doesn't even, there's a way let me say we are users, right? There's a way we kind of feel when we see that, okay, this is not even, I don't like this app, right? No, this is not okay. Who designed this? Who is this? We get to ask different questions that why do you have to use colors like this? So, right. And another one also that we could also look out for is like we using more, let me say, icons. I think icons could be like a best thing for us. For those of us that are familiar with what icons means, so icons means that they are just kind of elements that we use to depict some of our text in a product, right? And icons, we have outline icons, we have solid icons, we also have like a full icons, right? So what it means is that, let's say, for example, you were working with a solid icons in your product. And maybe, okay, let me use a web page for an example, right? On the web page, you're using like a full icons on your web page. So when it comes to your About Us page, you're using like an outline. It doesn't work, right? There are times that you have to consider that, maybe using that. But the only thing I feel like you could use that is that you need to be able to ask yourself questions and also understand some of your thought processes as to why you needed to do this. But most of the time, let me say 90% of the time, it's always best when you're consistent with whatever elements that you're using on your product. And you don't want to give your users this kind of different perspective that maybe they're using like a different product. They need to understand, there's something about branding that you need to always incorporate into your product, right? So for consistency as well, it's just like like a significant part, right? That has to comprise like a particular rule, that when your user sees this, they get to understand how to learn how to do it, right? So that's just like a perfect example of consistency. And aside from the word in product, you need to keep reminding yourself that, okay, is this consistent? Am I using the same font? Am I using the same color? Am I using the same icons to depict whatever information that I have in my product, right? So that's for consistency. So the other one I have is usability. This is like a key and let me say like integral part of UX design, basically, right? So one of the goals that we designers always ensure is that for whatever products we are designing, we are always determined by usability, right? We always want to ensure that whatever product we are designing, right, people with disabilities can use it. People without it can use it. People that are blind, they can use it. It has to do with, not that it correlates with accessibility, but it's part of the question that we usually ask ourselves. Ask yourself questions like, okay, this thing that I've worked on, you as a user, put yourself in the shoe of your user that, okay, can you use this? Is this usable? Right? And I want you all to always understand that good design is ultimately determined by usability. Trust me. Because if your product is not usable, there's something about bounce rate and chunk rate when it comes to design. There will always be a lot of bounce rate, which will always affect the business side of the product, which is something that we really want to avoid as a UX designer, right? So let's say, for example, if a design does not help the user to solve a particular problem, right? Or maybe it makes solving the problem extremely challenging. Trust me, it's not a good design, and you've not really achieved anything. And that is why we designers always push UX research, right? Yes, there are times that you don't need to conduct research. And I'm currently working on a product at work. In fact, I did not do any research. All I had to do was just for me to work on a flow chart, and I worked on the design because it's just like an existing product. So there are times that you just need to neglect UX research, that you don't need it, right? So, and I also want us to know that designers, right, we can always add some delight through maybe, maybe our animations, friendly language as well. And, something that could just, surprise our users' needs, right? And we also want to ensure that, okay, we don't need a third party, right? A user does not need a third party for them to be able to access your product that you've designed. Because if there is someone that, okay, let me use an example that, okay, I designed a product and I need help from somebody to help me, navigate through the app. Trust me, that is giving an impression that this product is not usable. And it doesn't have to be, you're working on different animation that, okay, this is very fine. It's not about fine at times. And whatever thing you're working on, you're also putting your developers in, your shoes as well. Putting them in your shoes, because I know that designers and developers, they always fight. They always fight. So you have to make sure that your product is usable and very simple to use. The other one that we have also is keep it simple. I think I've kind of said some when I was talking about usability, right? So not something that the best kind of an interface is the one that is very, very good as, maybe being invisible to people using the interface, right? And you need to always avoid some unnecessary elements that can be clear in the language used on some labels, or let me say in their messages, right? So you always want to ensure that this is very, very simple to use. Like I always preach this, always preach, very, very simple to use, because this alone could lead to a whole lot of, a lot of what's the word? Let me say funds. I think we are quite familiar to that, funds to your business. And you want to ensure that whatever product we're working on, we're always simple. So I want to move fast because I think I'll be sharing this slide. So in case you want to go through it. Yes, so the next one I'm going to be talking about is positioning yourself as a UX designer. And I'm going to be talking about, what it means for you to position yourself in the market and all of that. So the first thing is, what is market positioning? So positioning yourself as a UX designer, it's kind of involve showcasing your skills, experience, and expertise in the field just to attract potential clients or their players. What does this mean? there are a lot of designers in the world now. Like we now have a lot of UX designer, and you need to start asking yourself, how can you position yourself differently in the market space, right? These are some we're going to be talking about. So the next one is, why do I need to position myself as a UX designer? So I think this could be like a personal question, and the reason why I said so is that not you need to be able to ask yourself, how can you be valuable to the market? How can you make yourself as high competitor to others, right? So like, that is why I said, I ask yourself what can make you unique and valuable. That way you can be able to attract right opportunities and be a respected UX designer in your field. Trust me, it even gets to a point that you have a lot of referrals from people. This is not just because you are designing something, it's because you've proven yourself to be like a good team members, right? And this alone, your work will always speak of you that, okay, this is the best person that we could always hire in our team. Right. So the next one is positioning yourself as a UX designer. How do I position myself? The first one is creating a compelling portfolio. So I was mentoring a junior designer, and there's one thing I always tell her, which is quality over quantity. Trust me, it doesn't have to be that you have a whole lot of design on your portfolio, or it doesn't have to be that you have a lot of case study and what is in your case study is just quantity over quality. No, it should be quality always. The last portfolio I worked on, it was more of quality. Trust me, because this I know that okay, anybody coming to this portfolio, they get to understand what they're looking for. It's so simple and short, but either ways you're communicating what they need to see in your case studies, right? So what does it mean for you to create a compelling portfolio? You need to showcase some of your best UX projects in your portfolio, right? It could be in terms of highlighting your process, your problem solving skills. I mean, I preach this also, problem solving skills. You need to be able to solve problem, right? And the impact of your design on user experience. Trust me, get to a point that even your UI doesn't matter. Yes, it matters, but what potential clients want to see is your user experience, your UX, how you get to resonate your case study to some of your target audience, right? And also how you are able to demonstrate your ability to meet their needs. If you are able to solve this, trust me, you will win the heart of your clients or employer or whatnot, right? So the next one is deliver an exceptional work strategically. I mean, strategically, because I've reviewed a lot of portfolio and I really had a lot of feedback for the person, right? So, there are different ways for you to design your portfolio. Some use Dribble, and I'm not sure you can really use Dribble. What you're just saying that it's just more of UI. You're not even telling me your process, how you were able to achieve your UI, right? It should not be about that. You should be able to deliver an exceptional work that even if and is it an HR sees your work, they get to understand that, oh wow, I think the fact that I'm not a designer, but I'm an HR, I could understand this person process. That is part of the goal you need to achieve as a UX designer, right? So you need to constantly deliver high quality work, right? That gets to exceed the expectation, right? So, and also prioritize your client's satisfaction. Trust me, you're not designing your work for other designers. You're designing your portfolio in order for client to be satisfied when they come to your portfolio, right? The next one is optimize your online presence, right? So when it comes to optimizing this, it has to do with a whole lot. Trust me, I'm just going to make it short, right? So you could build something like a professional website, and also make sure you're optimizing your LinkedIn profile, right? And the reason why I'm saying this is because you need to be able to showcase more on your skills, your experience, right? And trust me, you also need to use social media platform and your online community to share some of your expertise. See, I can't count how many, some job offers that I've gotten and some that I've declined from LinkedIn. In fact, there is a whole lot. And this was when I was quite consistent with LinkedIn. But now, my bad, I've not been consistent on LinkedIn right now. But at least I'm just using this as an example that you could find in fact, that client you're looking for, You can find them on social media, be it your Instagram. I've seen people that got job from Instagram, right? Your Twitter, make sure you're using it consistently. You're posting your work. It could be that you post one particular work, and that is what a client is looking for. Trust me, you don't even need an interview. I've gotten some job also on Twitter that I don't even need an interview for. They just onboarded me with their team because they got to understand, okay, I think this person can deliver my work. The next one is, where do I position myself? There are different places for you to position yourself, but I just listed like three. We have online platforms, e.g. LinkedIn and Twitter. This is something like what I just said now regarding optimizing your online presence, right? And, there are also some online platforms that you could also engage yourself in, right? There's some on Slack, right? I have some community on Slack. You could even search on Google that UX design communities on Slack. Trust me, you're going to see a whole lot that you can join, right? Online communities as well, right? You can see some as maybe you saw some designer hangouts, and there's some design hangout that we usually have May. I think that's next 2 months on title design. I don't know if some of you are familiar with it. These are some places that you could always get yourself familiarized with. Meet with people, meet with them, tell them what you do. Just, you're pushing yourself out there that, okay, I'm capable of this and all of that. Share them your resume and all of that. Trust me, this kind of work, it's not that kind of work. I've seen people that it's worked for, right? And also networking events. There was a lady I saw during, I think, last 2 years. We went for this event we usually have every December, DevFest. She printed a portfolio and a resume in form of a card. Trust me, she said she was looking for jobs, so she printed about a whole lot, and she shared it with a lot of people because she knows that DevFest is not is not a small community. Of course, I'm sure some of us are familiar with DevFest. So she shared it, and see, she had about 10 offers. I mean, that day, trust me, right? So she had to decline some. So I'm not even saying that you need to do that, right? It's just like an avenue for you to always push out yourself there. You could just meet with them without having to share your card. That, oh, I'll be looking for an internship role. I'll be looking for a junior role. I'll be looking for a senior role. I do this, I do that. They could also refer you. That's an opportunity for you to be able to position yourself, right? So the next one I have is the key skills needed for advancement. So for you to be able to advance in UX design, right, you need some combination of technical skills, soft skills, and practical experience, right? So the reason why I'm not listing a whole lot of design skills is because at times your design skills is not needed. Yes, and I'm saying this because over the 4 years that I've been designing, I've learned a lot. And even your design skills, it's not relevant at some point. It's your technical skills and soft skills that get to speak for you, right? So then the first one I'm going to mention is your UX research and discovery. So you need to be able to validate some assumption when it comes to your user preferences and behavior. I think I've mentioned this before. And the next one is usability testing. Sorry, I'm trying to be fast. I think I'm over time. So when it comes to usability testing, you need to be able to provide yourself with some opportunity to get some feedback when it comes to your product, right? So it's just like you've designed a product and you want people to be able to test what you've done. Maybe you need to work on some other thing or iterate on the design you've worked on. So the next one also is your problem-solving skills. Trust me, this your problem-solving skills is very, very paramount when it comes to being a UX designer. You need to solve problems. Like you are solving a problem, not designing UIs. No, you are solving problems so that people can be able to use your product, right? So the next one also is communication. As designers, trust me, we'll communicate. We can't ever escape it. There's a lot of communication we need to do, when it comes to collaborating with some cross-functional teams. And what I mean is that your developers, your product managers, your stakeholders, you need to be able to communicate. And, when it comes to aligning some of our project goals and priorities, all of this, it's really, really, you need to be able to involve yourself in, right? And also attention to details. Oh my God, you need to be able to involve, make sure that you are ensuring some accuracy. Even with myself, I'm still trying to train myself when it comes to attention to details. It's very, very important, right? You need to be able to maintain some consistency across your design elements. And Just one mistake, and that alone could lead to some bounce rate in your product, right? So the next one also is your continuous learning. When it comes to continuous learning, honestly, let me just give you like 3 points. You need to be able to stay updated, right? Like reason why you need to keep learning. You're going to get yourself to be updated about what is trending in the design space, right? Also get to expand your skills and adapt to some change, right, in the industry and some market landscape. You need to be able to see if you can't even stop, not just because you've learned UI UX design, you not say, okay, I want to stop, I've learned everything. No, even senior designers, even principal designers, they still learn. So you need to keep learning, right? The next one also is building a standard portfolio. I'm not going to say much on this because I think I've said some. So when it comes to selecting your best work, you need to be able to showcase some of your well-crafted, case studies. Some of us are familiar with case studies, right? And some design projects, right? You could just choose maybe about 3 to 5 of your projects that you know that, okay, this is quite strong in my portfolio. You need to focus more on that. Craft some compelling case studies, highlight results. I think because of time, I won't be able to say much on this. So when it comes to highlighting results, it has to do with maybe for this particular product, how many downloads do you have on App Store? Maybe you have like 32K plus downloads. Highlight it in your portfolio. You have about 50% maybe people that used your product. Let me say, yeah, increase in satisfaction. I think that's the word, right? Highlight it. Increase in engagement. 15% increase. It could even be 2%. 2% increase in satisfaction. Highlight it. These are results. These are impact, right? And also make sure that you're also using your visuals. You don't want your portfolio to be boring. So make sure you're also using visuals on your portfolio, right? So the next also is access to communities. So when it comes to communities, make sure that you are also asking people, right? So I myself, I have some communities on WhatsApp, I have on Slack, and some local meetups as well. So make sure that you are not shy. Trust me, if you want to really progress in the design space, you need to look out to people, reach out to them, right? There are some on social media like LinkedIn. I have some on my LinkedIn, so some on Instagram, your WhatsApp, right? Join them, ask questions, ask them for some resources that could always be of help to you, right? And also on Slack, local meetups as well. The next one is asking for feedback, right? So this is very, very important. As a designer, there is one thing I always want us to ensure, which is we asking for feedback from our work. And not just asking for it, but also making sure that we are also learning from it, right? So what is feedbacks? Feedbacks are information or insights that are provided to someone about a performance, behavior, or work, right? So what are the tips for asking for feedbacks? Be open-minded. And so what I mean by open-minded is that you need to be able to approach feedback um, with the right mindset for you to be able to listen, right? Because there are some people that they don't know how to take feedback to heart. You need to be able to understand that. See, feedback, some people don't know how to give feedback. So just be open-minded and just ready your mind that anything could happen on this feedback call or anything, right? And next thing is for you to be specific. So, for example, when you're requesting for feedback, right, always make sure that you are specific as to what you want that person to give you feedback on, right? It could be in terms of maybe your project, your skills, or anything. Be specific, right? So the next one is asking open-ended question. For this one, you need to be able to, instead of asking, let me give you an example. Instead of asking something like maybe yes or no question, right? You could ask some open-ended question, like in terms of, I'm trying to think of an example. Okay, so let me use a simple word like, do you like my design? Right? You could just, instead of saying, do you like my design? The next thing you're going to hear is yes or no, right? Don't ask question like that. An example is, what are your thoughts on this overall design? Are there any areas you think I could improve on? That's a good thing for you to be able to ask an open-ended question, right? So the next one also is a continuous improvement. See, one thing about this continuous improvement is you need to be able to use feedback as a catalyst to your continuous improvement. Like this particular thing is what I used to remind myself of every single day as a designer, right? And when it also comes to incorporating your feedback into your, maybe you're currently learning something or your development process, right? You need to continually strive to refine your skills, right? And ability based on the insights that you've received from these people you asked feedback on, right? So it's very, very important. So I think I'm done. So when it comes to conclusion of this webinar, number one, you need to be consistent. You need to continue, you need to learn, like keep learning every single day. I myself, I still take courses. I take courses a lot. I read books on designs, right? You need to be able to network and connect. Don't be shy. Network yourself with other designers. You could just get one job that's paying you like £10,000, right? You don't want to earn in naira now. I mean, you get it. So yeah, so that's the word you need to keep reminding yourself of. So the next also is soliciting for feedback. Yes, you need to keep asking for feedback. I myself, I also ask for feedback. I still ask for feedback on Friday, which is yesterday at work. Okay, I was facilitating and I asked my PM that, okay, what does she think? Is there anything I need to improve on? That alone is a feedback. You need to keep asking for feedback. So yes, I think I'm done. Thank you all for this session. And I don't know if you have any question.
Thank you so much, Omolola. It was quite